Scorpio, welcome to your reading for the first half of October. So this reading is designed to cover the full moon in Aries, which is on the 1st of October, and then the waning moon cycle that follows, so the 2 weeks that follow. Now, this October, we've got a slightly unusual situation in that we've got two full moons. We've got one that tops the October and tails it. So the second one is going to be in Taurus and Scorpio. So that one will probably be more personal to you, but I think you'll already be feeling that Scorpio vibe with Mercury, which has now ingressed into Scorpio and will be there until December, because it will retrograde kind of mid-month, briefly dip back into Libra and then go back into Scorpio again, I think in November. So just something to bear in mind. But anyway, this full moon is an interesting one for a lot of reasons. So the first thing to say about it from your perspective is that it will take place in the 6th and the 12th houses. So for you, this is the axis to do with mind and body. It's also associated with kind of spirituality on one hand and pragmatic, everyday, lived reality on the other. So it's trying to kind of balance those two things. You know, sometimes we have a kind of religious or spiritual practice which seems very far removed from ordinary life, and somehow we have to incorporate it into our everyday routine. For example, you know, finding time to meditate, finding time to pray, finding time to practice what we preach, or, you know, what we believe, to kind of live our faith. And on the other hand, there's also the you know, the kind of matters that are a little bit more 3D, like pets, schedules, work colleagues, all that kind of thing, that we somehow need to sort of reconcile with all those high thoughts and subconscious patterns and relationship to the collective that happens in the 12th house. So this is also the house of institutions, and that's kind of worth pointing out. So 12th house here is sort of institutions, and then this is work, organizations, everyday life, you know, habits, that kind of thing. It can also be health too, let's not forget that. So there's that very strong connection here between mind and body, between our vibration and our consciousness on one hand, and then the physical manifestation of it in the 3D. So for you, the sun and the moon will fall in these two houses. The sun in Libra will be here in your 12th house, and and the moon in Aries will be sitting in your 6th house. So I think let's maybe just, you know, make it clear by putting Aries here in your 6th house. So an interesting time for you, Scorpio, because this is generally when you're very focused on the 12th house. It's the lead up to your birthday, and usually that involves quite a bit of contemplation, almost like a personal sort of old year's eve kind of story, where we reassess the year that's passed. We kind of work out what for us worked, what didn't, what we were disappointed about, what we were pleased with, and we're almost kind of clearing out the clutter and making room for a fresh start come Scorpio season, when you celebrate your solar return. So this full moon is part of that process. And I think we're going to do a geomantic reading to see what kind of comes out in the 3D, but certainly, you know, if you watched the video that I did on the astrology of this particular full moon, which you can catch either on my YouTube channel or the extended version on my website, if you remember, you'll see that it's about the sort of the balance between I versus we. So in this case for you, it's about the I in the pragmatic, everyday, lived reality on the one hand, getting things done, succeeding in the workplace, and then, you know, there's all those kind of social beliefs that we inherit about how to be successful, and sometimes that is difficult to reconcile with our spiritual beliefs. For example, do we sometimes do things that are considered a little bit underhanded in order to get ahead, or, you know, does that kind of conflict with our our spiritual beliefs or ethics, you know, all those kinds of things. So some of those could come up now at this full moon. More than likely, though, this is going to be about some kind of resolution or culmination point when it comes to either work, health, pets, or your schedule. So, you know, any and all of those. Now, adding to the story, and you know, these are the layers that we're kind of dealing with, is the fact that we've got a conjunction between the moon and Chiron happening at this full moon. So the moon and Chiron will be pairing up in Aries, so here in your 6th house, to bring in some healing, actually. So it could well be about physical healing on some level. Maybe you haven't been well. Maybe you've been one of those unfortunate people that has succumbed to, you know, to COVID-19. But whatever it is, there is a healing energy coming in now that allows you to transform and to really recover and to heal, to regain your full sense of wellness. And that is actually a theme that is highlighted at this full moon, certainly in terms of you know, the sort of energetic body, wellness, immunity, and that sense of aliveness are very much associated with Aries. You know, the sun is exalted here, and this is really about wellness and vitality. We've also actually, if I think about it, we've also got Mars in Aries. So Mars is retrograde in Aries as well, and that will be in your 6th house. It is making a conjunction to Black Moon Lilith. So that's the kind of the dark side of the moon. And the reason I bring this up is, you know, Scorpio, first of all, you can handle all that kind of fairly dark energy. It's not really something that you tend to shy away from. But why I want to bring it up is that so often there is this connection between, you know, the mind and the body, between our emotions, particularly those that we repress in the subconscious mind, and what gets manifested in the body. Because, of course, you know, things start further up in the energetic fields, and then they kind of make their way down into the physical realm, and they manifest as things like illness or, you know, stress or, you know, whatever. So I feel as though this conjunction between Mars and Black Moon Lilith may be pointing to something in your subconscious mind that, you know, it needs to be worked with and healed during this period of Libra season, so that you're kind of ready come Scorpio season to really, you know, cross over and sort of come into that kind of dawn energy of a fresh start, a kind of a reset happening. So that's just something to bear in mind, that there may be some hidden or repressed stuff related to Mars. Could be something to do with your past, because Mars is retrograde, but equally it could be about you know, things that we bury or repress, or that we don't really want to admit. So, you know, that's why it's kind of the dark moon. It's things that we don't always see, or that are not on our radar in the conscious domain. But, you know, you are the queen or the king of the underworld, so I don't think you will have a problem transmuting that energy. And then the other thing to say about it, of course, is that it could also bring to life some kind of treachery or issue, maybe sabotage by a colleague, for example, you know, when it comes to work dynamics. But, you know, if that is the case, I think it will come up in the reading. So we'll see what comes through when I deal with the cards. So let's do that next, and find out what messages there are for you at this full moon. I suppose I should also point out that Saturn has gone direct in Capricorn, but your sign, your planetary ruler, Pluto, will still be retrograde. So both your traditional and your modern ruler, Mars and Pluto, will both be retrograde at this time. And I think there's a real emphasis on going within or looking back to the past to heal and resolve and transmute any outstanding resentments, you know, pain, trauma, etc. during this kind of, I suppose, almost a dark moon period for you. You know, the sort of those last few days leading up to the new moon, metaphorically speaking. Give those a good shuffle. Okay, let's cut the cards. So working slightly differently again with the Geomancy. I'm going to lay out all the 12 cards, but I'll only turn over those cards that are relevant to the reading. Otherwise it becomes too much information, I think. All right, so let's start with the 12th and the 6th houses. How interesting. So yes, this is what I was feeling, Scorpio, is that this full moon is going to bring up a little bit of sadness or trauma or loss for you. So we've got a Missio, which is, these are both earth figures actually. So I think that might be relevant. The fact that we're dealing with, matters, pragmatic matters, or things that need to be grounded or that need to be released, or that might have to do with kind of concrete events that have happened in the past. So a Missio is Venus in Taurus energy. So this is about transience, it's about loss, it's about what feels out of reach or unattainable. It can be about, missing somebody. So it's possible that, as I say, that you may have some kind of mourning to do here in the 12th house. Maybe there's somebody that you are parted from, that you are missing, some grief, and here it isn't necessarily grief for a person. It can be a grief for an old way of life, because of course for everybody, for humanity, things have changed so vastly in the last year thanks to that Jupiter-Pluto conjunction that where we find ourselves now is almost unrecognizable. So that involves a grieving process. And I think a Missio here is just pointing to, it's kind of asking you not to hang on to anything too tightly. Now, as I say, it could be about a relationship, because this is Libra. This is the position of Libra, which is usually about one-to-one relationships, but it doesn't have to be. It could be just grieving an old way of life, an old way of being that you are shedding. And here in the 6th house, we've got Corsair. So this geomantic figure is ruled by Saturn in Capricorn. Now, as I said, Saturn recently went direct in Capricorn. It will be orbiting very close to your planetary ruler, Pluto. Saturn is coming off of quite a fresh square to Mars. So Mars is here in Aries. So it may well be that this figure is drawing our attention to that square. So if we think about Capricorn, this sits in your 3rd house. So let's have a look at what's going on here. Interesting. So I kind of feel as though this square, which it's the second pass of the square between the two malefics. The first one was on August the 24th, I think. So quite a difficult and challenging square that usually brings on a sense of frustration due to obstacles, hindrances, delays, that kind of thing. So what I'm kind of feeling is that maybe there's been a delay in terms of discussions to do with a contract, perhaps an employment contract. Maybe there's a dispute going on, or you're kind of waiting for an offer to come in, a job offer. This is the 3rd house of communication. And here we've got Albus, an air sign. So this is Mercury in Gemini energy. Now, Albus is symbolized by white. So it's usually a blank sheet of paper. And often for me, it's about contract negotiations, things that are written down. But equally, it could be about discussions that involve a lot of thought, because Mercury in Gemini is air energy. It rules the mind. And this is the 3rd house, not just of communication, but also of logical thinking, of self-expression. So communication, thought, the logical mind, the conscious mind, that kind of thing, knowledge, learning, expressing. And I think it's also bringing our attention to that ingress of Mercury into Scorpio, so in your first house. So let's just have a look at that figure. Interesting. So in your first house, we've got the figure associated with Scorpio, which is Rubeus. So this is very often about difficult feelings, feeling angry, resentful, disappointed, a little bit OCD. It can be about passion also. So, and can be about control issues. I find it's often about control issues. So it could relate to this emissio, maybe clinging to something, being attached to something that needs to be released. But equally, it could be obsessing about maybe a contract or discussions that are related either to health or to work. That's what I feel predominantly. So maybe you are kind of in dispute, or you're waiting for an appointment, for example, from a healthcare practitioner, and there's been a delay. Now that could be one expression of this Saturn Mars square. Another one is that you are in dispute about, as I say, an employment contract, or you're waiting and this offer hasn't yet come in, a written offer, or there's been toing and froing with with regards to the exchange of contracts or terms or clauses being negotiated. So let's see what's happening in the 8th house. Mercury again. So it could well be about a sort of contract negotiations or a legal matter with this double Mercury energy. Again, this is Mercury in Virgo. So very often this is about collaboration, about a union of opposites. And interesting that we've got a union of kind of opposites in the form of this opposition that happens every full moon between the sun and the moon that sit on opposite sides of the horizon. And of course they're united by the earth, and here we've got an earth geomantic figure. So that's also worth bearing in mind. And again, if you watch the video that I did on the astrology of this full moon, you'll see that I talk about the earth and I actually pull some oracle cards specifically about the earth, because it's the earth that mediates between the sun and the moon at full moons. And here it could be a third party that is mediating on behalf, or sort of between you and one other party. Let's see. Oh yes, definitely. So we've got the repeat here of Corsair in your 7th house. Now this can be about contracts, about business partnerships, about one-to-one relationships that are related to work. So this is what I'm feeling, is that there's some kind of negotiation going on to do with work. Okay, but the outcome will make you happy in the end. So that's a good thing to see. So yes, that's what I feel, is that this full moon for you is about the culmination of some kind of discussion or negotiation to do with work that's been a little bit frustrating, or that's been delayed on some level with that Saturn Mars square here. I think that's how the energy is kind of working for you. But let's just pull some trinkets to clarify. Okay, so for your 12th house, for the sun, we've got choices. This is the crossroads. And very often this is about, making choices, making different choices, or choosing to let go of something. That's the energy that I'm getting from this, is that you're at that point, that's sort of almost winter solstice or darkness before the dawn energy, where you're having to make some clear choices within yourself about how you're going to move forward, what you're going to let go of, moving into your next solar return. So you're at a kind of crossroads point now, where you have an opportunity to do things differently. Okay, so for that Aries Aries moon, we've got the snake. This can be it can be about delays, so a process that's long and drawn out, like the snake. And I feel with that Mars Saturn square, that there's definitely some kind of negotiations or communications that have been delayed that are related either to health or to work. So maybe you're waiting for, as I say, a letter from, say, the NHS for an appointment that you know, like a scan or something of that ilk, or you are waiting for a referral to an important healthcare practitioner, and you know you need that letter before your healthcare, like your medical aid, will give you the go ahead, or else there's some kind of delay when it comes to an offer of employment. So what is Scorpio obsessed about? Yes, so this is about control issues. The tree is about things that are very slow to grow. So I think you're a little bit impatient because things are not happening as quickly as you would like, and that's, as I say, I think because of that that Mars Saturn square that we've had since the end of August. So the whole of September was quite frustrating for everybody. Everything was slowed down, almost like a Mercury retrograde. And don't forget that we're going to have a Mercury retrograde here in your first house come mid-October, when Mercury goes retrograde in Scorpio. So it could also be alluding to that and just telling you to have patience, to realize that good things take time to grow, that you need to establish roots and to really be able to feed yourself, you know, in order for your branches to sort of bear fruit in the future. So I think just patience is what's required here. Cool your jets, don't get too controlling. Right, one for the 10th house. Okay, so yes, I do feel as though, you know, when it comes to career, things have been a little bit painful, difficult for you recently, and it could be because you've suffered ill health, or there's been some kind of delay here, and maybe on one level you're wondering if things are ever going to sort of come right. But I think that with Letitia here, it's saying that there is an end to burdens and suffering soon. So I think, you know, more than likely when we get to Scorpio season, you'll see that rebirth happening for you. So one for the 8th house. Yes, the star. Now this is all about having faith in the future. It's about optimism. It's about kind of you know, just knowing that you're being divinely guided and that things are happening in divine timing. So things will come together eventually when it comes to whatever this collaboration or contract is, you know, about. So just try to relax and cool your jets. You know, things will kind of pan out in the end. Okay, let's have some parting wisdom from the Universe Has Your Back deck. What parting message do we have for Scorpio? Whoops. At the full moon in Aries. Right, that wanted to come out. Okay, wonderful. Oneness is my true nature. So I really feel that this alludes to the fact that you're in a kind of a 12th house state, and that you will be for much of Libra season, and that this is the place that you need to kind of retreat to. So don't feel bad if you kind of take time out away from the sort of social sphere, you know, away from social media, maybe go on retreat or become a little bit reclusive, you know, kind of go into hermit mode almost. Because you're already communing with the higher dimensions, and that is, I think, is as it should be. That's where all the positive energy is going to be constellating this month anyway, especially with the Jupiter Neptune sextile we've got at that new moon in Virgo. So that's really wonderful expansive energy in the sort of the higher dimensions, and we won't see evidence of it in the physical realm this month, but we, you know, it may manifest kind of in December. So there's lots happening in the invisible, the unseen realms, and that is an area that you are kind of, that is your kind of forte, you know. So think about this 2-week period as kind of a period of incubation, where you are shedding, like a snake, you're shedding your old skin before the start of Scorpio season, and you're kind of communing with the higher dimensions in order to birth this joyful new path forward for yourself at the start of Scorpio season. So I hope you've enjoyed that, Scorpio. I'm sending you lots of love and healing Chiron energy your way, and I'll catch you again in a fortnight for the new moon in Virgo.